Have you ever stepped into a room and felt every glance asking the same silent question? Why are you here? That was the weight on me the morning I entered the courthouse. The air pressed heavy against my chest, thick and suffocating. Low whispers rippled around me, not clear enough to catch, but sharp enough to sting. The scent of polished wood mixed awkwardly with the cheap perfume people wore to look important. Photographers crouched at the back like scavengers, their red camera lights flickering as if waiting for blood. More than 300 bodies filled that chamber, and every sound became amplified. The scrape of shoes, the rattle of a cough, the scratch of pen to paper. It all landed like judgment. And there, seated at the very front, was Nathaniel Cole, my father, and the family he built once I was no longer enough. They looked picture-perfect, dressed in suits that screamed wealth, their posture stiff enough to cut glass. Julia sat beside him in her pale grey dress, Daniel fidgeting in his chair at her side. They looked less like a family and more like a dynasty ready to be celebrated. And me. I sat alone in the back row, out of place as I'd always been. When the judge called for order, I thought I was prepared. But Nathaniel rose before his turn came. His voice sliced through the silence. I object. This young man is not my son. From this day forward, he carries no claim to the Cole name. The words shattered across the room like glass dropped in slow motion. Gasps, mutters, the clatter of a pen hitting the floor somewhere behind me. Daniel let out a small, broken cry, the only honest sound in the room. Julia's face went pale, her hand trembling on the armrest. But me. I didn't flinch. I smiled. Not with arrogance, not with cruelty, just the quiet kind of smile my mother once said could light up a kitchen. Because inside my briefcase rested a white envelope, sealed and humming with truth. And if Nathaniel wanted to make the day about bloodlines, then we'd uncover them all. I rose. Every step pounded louder in my chest than it did against the polished floor. My fingers brushed the envelope's sharp corners, humming like electricity. And before I opened my mouth, memory dragged me backward to the only real warmth I'd ever known. My mother, Claire. I saw her clearly, sitting at the edge of my bed, lamplight catching her hair as she read The Great Gatsby aloud. Her voice steady, her finger trailing across the words as though she'd lived them herself. She once told me, "Never let anyone make you believe you're unworthy of love." She said it after Nathaniel ignored the science fair ribbon I had worked so hard to win. In a house that felt more like a museum, cold marble floors, frozen portraits, silence sharp enough to cut, she was my warmth against the stone. I was 12 when she sat me under the old fig tree in the garden. Her voice wavered but her gaze held steady as she told me Nathaniel wasn't my father. "But you're mine," she said. "That will never change." I believed her. Until cancer stole her from me. At 26, I held her hand as her life slipped away. Her last words were simple. "You are my light." Nathaniel wasn't there. His farewell came through papers delivered by an assistant. 6 months later, Julia arrived. Not like a wife, but like an invasion. The house that once smelled of molasses cookies now carried the faint, constant burn of sandalwood candles. Photos of me and my mother vanished, replaced with portraits of Nathaniel and Julia, flawless but hollow. One night, she wore my mother's emerald ring. When I asked about it, she smiled and said, "Found it in an old box. It suits me, doesn't it?" "No," I told her. "It never did." Then Daniel came. Nathaniel wept when Julia told him she was pregnant, tears I'd never seen for me, nor for Claire. He placed his hand over her stomach and whispered, "This is our second chance to get it right." And I knew then what I was. A rough draft. A mistake. A shadow placeholder until the real son arrived. But truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface. I saw the late-night calls, the hotel bills tucked inside corporate folders. Julia's laugh with Victor, Nathaniel's oldest friend, just a little too bright, too familiar. And then came the proof I couldn't ignore, a DNA test. Daniel wasn't Nathaniel's son. He was Victor's. So when Nathaniel tried to erase me, I stepped forward. Your Honor, I said, calm and steady. If today is about truth, then all of it deserves daylight. I placed the envelope on the stand. My hands shook once, then stilled. I opened it. Daniel Cole is not Nathaniel's son. He belongs to Victor. The test shows a 99.9% match. The room erupted. Julia screamed, her voice shrill enough to fracture the air. Victor shot to his feet and bolted for the door, his footsteps thundering with guilt. Julia tried to follow, dragging Daniel by the arm, but her heel caught the carpet and she crashed to the floor. Gasps swept through the crowd. Nathaniel slumped into his chair, his face drained, his hands trembling, something I'd never seen before. And me. I didn't laugh. I didn't gloat. I simply breathed. For the first time in years, the weight lifted. I looked Nathaniel in the eyes. You're right. I'm not your blood. Claire told me that long ago. But she also said love is a choice. She chose me. You've only ever chosen power. The silence that followed was thick enough to suffocate. And in it, I felt my mother. Not in the marble halls, not in the Cole name, not in their dynasty. She was here in the truth. I returned to my seat. The envelope was empty now, but my hands had never felt lighter. That night, I played an old recording of Claire reading Gatsby. Her voice filled the room, steady and warm. You never really know how strong you are until truth is the only thing you have left. And in the soft glow of my apartment, I finally understood. I wasn't erased. I wasn't forgotten. I was my mother's son. And no dynasty, no courtroom, no lie could ever strip that from me.